On January 7th, 2002, 20-year-old Paul Aaron Triplett ended up here, according to his family, late that morning.
We are literally in the middle of nowhere, at the end of a long, winding, single-lane road. His family says he came here to do a drug deal, and then he vanished. He has not been seen in the almost 23 years since. Where is Paul Aaron Triplett? This is Twisted Crimes.
This building would sit on part of the property that the suspect owned at the time. There's tips in his case file that he may be under a concrete floor of what they call a pump house that sit off to the side of where the suspect's house used to sit. So that may be the pump house. There may be a concrete floor, and my brother's remains may be under that floor.
Paul Aaron Triplett, known as Aaron or by the nickname Bub, was born on June 26, 1981. At the time of his birth, he was welcomed by his two sisters, one of whom is Heather Triplett.
He is my younger brother by 2 years. We have an older sister, Amanda, we call her Mandy, that's 2 years older than me. We are all born and raised here in Knott County.
Knott County, located in eastern Kentucky near the Virginia border, is known as the elk capital of the East. Tourists come to the area to catch a glimpse of the largest free-ranging elk population east of the Mississippi River. Like most brothers and sisters, Mandy, Heather, and Aaron enjoyed harassing each other.
We were close. I think him and my sister were probably closer than me because they used to gang up on me and tell me that I was adopted, I was the milkman's child. They would call me Batman face because Batman has a square face and my face is more shaped like Batman. So they picked on me a lot and made fun of me and gang up on me. But we were all pretty close growing up.
Despite the harassment, Heather said she loved her brother and thought he was an amazing person.
He was a loving person, a funny person. He was always telling jokes, goofing off. He loved to cook. He was an amazing chef. He wanted to become a chef. Just a really good-hearted person.
What's your favorite story about your brother?
A family friend of ours was telling me she had took my brother and I believe my sister to the local Dairy Queen to get something to eat, and they went through the drive-thru, and he's like, okay, what do you all want? And my brother's like, I want a fried bologna sandwich. You know, silly stuff that obviously wasn't on the menu, but that was him. He was just a big cut-up. He was just always doing something funny and hilarious, and he was a lover, not a fighter, very peaceful person, and loved by many. You know, he was just a good kid. He really was.
She said he did quite well in school for many years and was very active in sports and music.
He was a good student. I mean, when he was younger, I remember he played football. Him and some of his friends that had like guitars and drums, they would get together. I think he taught himself how to play the guitar in certain songs. And so they would they never had a band that took off or anything, but, you know, they would get together and call themselves a little band and practice.
She said he always had long hair and liked to keep it pulled back most of the time.
He was a hippie that was born way too late.
One time, he even recreated a famous scene from the original Karate Kid movie.
I guess during some of the training or whatever, he was using chopsticks and he caught a fly with the chopsticks. Do you all remember that? Well, one day, I don't know why we had chopsticks. We were younger. We were kids, maybe like middle school. There was a fly flying around in the house, and my brother whipped those chopsticks out, just being silly, and he caught the fly.
When Aaron was in the first grade, his parents got a divorce.
They left it up to us where we wanted to go. So I think when mom and dad first separated, me and my brother went with my mom. My sister stayed with my dad.
However, none of them stayed in that setup for very long.
Then at some point, my brother moved in with my dad back in Knott County. We kind of went back and forth, I guess. Mad at one parent and be like, I'm going to go stay with dad type of thing. Right. You know, that happened a lot.
However, at some point in time, Aaron began spending time with a new group of friends who were not the best influence on him.
Basically, he was running with the wrong crowd here.
He was living with his father at the time, and he started getting into some trouble with the law.
Maybe started having too much freedom living here with our father at that time. I believe him and one of his friends had went out like on their 16th birthday, and his friend stopped to get gas and drove away without paying for it. So later on that night, they got pulled over and they did go to jail.
Was Dad like a little looser on the rules, maybe?
Yeah, he was.
However, Heather said neither of their parents was strict.
I was allowed to drink at both houses when I was 16, 17. They kind of felt like they would rather us be home and know what we were doing versus being out on the road driving. You know, neither one was really, really strict. I'd say my mom was more strict. Either household was a pretty laid back, cool household to live in, though.
Eventually, Aaron dropped out of school and left town. Two of his uncles lived in Michigan, so he decided to move in with one of them.
He needed to be in a different environment and maybe some positive influence on him.
She said the new environment was good for Aaron. His other uncle in Michigan owned a bakery, and the bakery had an apartment above it. Aaron moved into the apartment and started working at the bakery. He even started caring more about his appearance.
Being from Eastern Kentucky, he would wear blue jeans and a t-shirt. After he moved to Michigan and around his cousins and his friends, he kind of switched up his attire and started wearing khakis and polos and button-up shirts, but he kept his hair long, and he still wore it back in a ponytail, and he kept his black leather motorcycle jacket. He still wore that with his khakis. So he stayed true to himself, but, started dressing nicer.
He also started working on his GED and was able to successfully complete it.
A couple months after he went missing, our aunt in Michigan, in the mail, got his certificate. He had graduated and gotten his GED. So he had completed that, but he didn't live long enough to actually see the certificate.
Aaron was just 17 years old when he became a father to a beautiful baby girl named Michaela on April 11th, 1998. Michaela's mom was someone Aaron had gone to school with when he was younger. A judge ordered him to take a paternity test to confirm Michaela was his daughter. He handled it with his typical sense of humor.
It came back 99.9% that's his daughter. And I said, well, congratulations, bub. He said, well, don't necessarily mean there's a 0.1% chance she might not be. Just joking. That's just how he was.
Aaron and Michaela's mom did not stay together after she was born. They never had a very serious relationship to begin with. Aaron did not have custody, and he rarely saw Michaela. Heather said she can only remember seeing them together one time.
I went to my grandmother's house, and it was during summer because it was kind of like a little family reunion, and Michaela's mom let her come over. So there is a picture, I don't have it now, I don't know what happened to it, of my brother playing with his daughter on my grandmother's bed. Michaela's laying on the bed, and my brother's laying on his side beside of her, tickling her feet, and she's laughing.
Despite never really knowing her father, Michaela has done very well in life. She said she has a bachelor degree in social work and is currently back in school studying accounting.
She's an amazing child. Never got in any trouble. She went put herself through college. She's bought her own home. So she's doing amazing.
According to the National Library of Medicine, Purdue Pharma released a painkiller called OxyContin in 1996. It is used to help people suffering from moderate to severe pain resulting from injuries, cancer, arthritis, and various other issues. It was aggressively marketed and highly promoted. Purdue Pharma sold $48 million worth of it in 1996, and sales of it skyrocketed to around $1.1 billion by 2000. Because it was relatively easy to get, it had become a leading drug of abuse in the United States by 2004. Heather said the use and abuse of OxyContin caused a lot of issues in Knox County, Kentucky, and the surrounding areas.
OxyContin just took over. At first, they were pushing it for as not being addictive, non-addictive. You could pushing it for headaches, for backaches, minor things. So yeah, it was part of that epidemic.
She said Aaron, who was still living in Michigan at the time, began noticing that a lot of people he knew back in Kentucky wanted OxyContin, and they were willing to pay a lot of money to get it. She said he also noticed that the demand for it was not nearly as high in Michigan.
In Michigan, where he lived, maybe the epidemic hadn't took over there yet. I'm not sure.
Since the drug had not really become popular in Michigan yet, Aaron was able to get a good deal on it.
He met some people in Michigan that either had a prescription for OxyContin or knew how to get it and would sell it to my brother for, really, really cheap.
He quickly realized he could make a lot of money by buying pills in Michigan and then distributing them in Kentucky.
He would drive from Michigan to Kentucky to sell OxyContin 80. At that time, each pill was going for like $80 a pill, sometimes even $90 or more for one pill.
He was able to get a lot of pills in Michigan, hundreds of them. He was getting so many that he could not sell them all by himself.
There were a couple of known drug dealers in our community, so he would drop them off to certain people in Knott County when he came into town on Friday after work. I believe some people he would front the pills to, which means he dropped 20 off with so-and-so, and so-and-so would sell them Friday and Saturday and Sunday. And so when my brother got ready to go back to Michigan on Sunday, he would stop by and pick up the money.
He even found a couple of people who were willing to give him cash for the pills right when he dropped them off.
At least 2, maybe 3 people that he would bring 100 and drop them off, and that person would pay him for it then.
Aaron found it to be an easy way to make a lot of money.
He got caught up in the making quick money fast, easy. He didn't see any harm in it. He's 20 years old, not thinking of the consequences if you were to get pulled over and get caught with that, or there's greedy, mean people out there that would take your life for a pill and money.
One of the people who regularly bought a lot of pills from Aaron was a man whose identity Aaron's family has asked us to not release. So we will refer to him simply by his initials, which are CRM. For clarification, during our interview with Heather, whenever she talked about CRM, she used the word suspect. So whenever you hear her say suspect, that is who she is referring to.
I guess normally he would take 100 to this person on the weekend.
She said at some point during the first week of January of 2002, CRM called Aaron while he was at work with his uncle at the bakery in Michigan, and his uncle overheard part of that conversation. The uncle later told family members that CRM had asked Aaron to bring 200 pills to him that upcoming weekend. That was double the amount he normally purchased.
He wanted my brother not to tell anyone that he was coming to drop those off. At one point, my brother had a middleman that would go with him to this guy's house. And so I guess they were trying to do it without involving anyone else, or that's what my brother thought. Not to tell anyone that he was coming, and to make it his last stop on his way back to Michigan.
His uncle, as well as several other people who heard about this request, told Aaron that he should not be dealing with CRM.
Told him that it sounded like a setup. I said, man, don't go there. He's going to rob you.
To make matters worse, if something were to happen to Aaron at CRM's house, there would be no one around to help, except for CRM's own family and friends. CRM lived on this road, called Flax Patch Road in Knott County, Kentucky. The road is wide and paved at the beginning, but before long, it switches to gravel and narrows to a one-lane, windy road through the mountain. The next to the last house on the road at the time was CRM's parents' house. Then, at the end of the road, was CRM's house. His house used to be where this concrete slab is now. The trailer beside it in this Google Earth image was not there at the time. So his parents' house was here. His house was here, and after his house, there was a long dirt road on private property that went deep into the woods until it eventually came to a dead end. The dirt road is still there today. We went with Heather to the spot where that dirt road begins.
And up this driveway was owned by family members of the suspect at the time.
I do believe so, yes. So this area here used to be part of what the suspect and his family owned. whether it was him or his brother or an uncle. It was most of his family owned the end of this road.
According to Heather, at that time, this was the last house on Flax Patch Road not owned by CRM or someone in his family. Once you passed this spot, you were on land owned by them, high up on a mountain, surrounded by woods. Despite all these red flags, Aaron told several people he still planned to make the trip up Flax Patch Road at the end of that first weekend of 2002.
My brother told him he had to get rid of this last 200 because after he got rid of those, he was out. He wasn't going to be trafficking OxyContin to Kentucky every weekend anymore.
The reason he had so many pills in the first place was that CRM decided not to buy the pills he had requested the previous weekend.
He was kind of aggravated because apparently something happened the weekend before where this guy wanted 100 pills brought in, but he didn't take those 100 pills.
According to the police report, Aaron's sister Amanda told police that she ended up selling those pills instead of saving them for CRM. Amanda stated Aaron had 100 OxyContin 80s the weekend before he disappeared that he had for CRM, and that he didn't have money to pay for them, and Aaron left the pills with her. Amanda stated that she sold the pills to someone else and that CRM was mad at Aaron over that. Heather said when Aaron started meeting with CRM, he did not go alone. Someone referred to as a middleman went with him several times.
Maybe the last 3 months, there was no middleman, but at some point, yes, my brother would be the only one to go drop pills off at this guy's house.
According to a written note on Aaron's cell phone records, CRM called him on Thursday, January 3rd, 2002. Then on Friday, Aaron drove from Michigan to Kentucky for the weekend. He ended up staying there Sunday night as well.
His girlfriend at the time and her friend had spent the night with him at my sister's house. They watched a movie. He normally would have left to go back up to Michigan on Sunday, but it had snowed. So it made it Monday before he left.
Heather said CRM called her sister's house multiple times that weekend to talk to Aaron.
He talked to the suspect that morning before he left my sister's house.
Shortly after that phone call, he left with the two girls to take them back to their dorm on the campus of Alice Lloyd College in Pippapasses. After he dropped the girls off, he drove away alone. His family members assumed he was planning to drive over to CRM's house, then back to Michigan. Heather said his cell phone did not get service for the first part of his trip, but as soon as he got service again, he would always call and check in with at least one family member.
We knew exactly when his cell phone would have service because this was back in 2002. There weren't a whole lot of cell phone towers, so he had Nextel as his carrier. And so we already knew that he didn't get service on his cell phone until he got to Winchester, Kentucky, which would be a little over an hour from Knott County.
Morning turned to afternoon, and afternoon turned to evening that day, Monday, January 7th of 2002. And still, no one had heard from Aaron. Heather said her sister became concerned.
So she starts calling around different friends, family members, reached out to my uncle that he worked for in Michigan to see if he'd talked to him. He hadn't. She had called me and my mom to see if we'd talked to him because at the time we lived in Versailles, to see if maybe he'd stop by to see us before he went back to Michigan, and he hadn't.
Heather said her sister was freaking out right away.
She had a huge reaction to the fact that nobody had heard from him and it was going straight to voicemail. It let her know that he had not even made it out of Knott County. With the knowledge she had, she instantly feared for his life. She was terrified something bad had happened to him on the way to this guy's house or at this guy's house. So much so that her husband literally had to sit on her because she was trying to leave the house to go get in the vehicle to drive up to the suspect's house.
Aaron's sister then called the police, which took a lot of courage since she was using and selling drugs at the time.
For someone to be in the middle of the mix, selling and using drugs, and love their brother more than anything in their life, have enough courage to call and ask for help with the Knott County Sheriff's Office, and then to call Kentucky State Police for help. You know she had to be pretty upset and convinced something bad was wrong for her to call for help. She calls both places telling them You know, he left her house with guns, lots of drugs, lots of money, was going to suspect's house. I fear he has been killed. He needs help. And so the sheriff's office tells her to call Kentucky State Police. She hangs up, she calls Kentucky State Police, tells them the same thing. Can you imagine what her voice sounded like? I'm sure she was crying. I'm sure she was hysterical. And the only help they offered was, ma'am, you can't report him missing until it's been 72 hours.
After 72 hours, she called back, and the police did begin to investigate. One of the first people police talked to was a man by the name of Jim Francis.
He was, at some point, worked at the sheriff's office.
According to the police report, quote, Jim stated he was at the Big Y Market on Tuesday, January 8, 2002 at around noon drinking coffee and saw Paul Aaron Triplett come into the store. He did not know what he did or anything.
This guy says that he saw my brother on the 8th at a Big Y gas station, which is the only gas station close to the suspect's house.
Police headed over to the Big Y Market and they talked to a worker there by the name of Chelsea. According to the police report, quote, Chelsea stated the boy, Mr. Triplett, came in the store, walked straight back to the kitchen area, used the phone without asking anyone, then left without buying anything. Chelsea stated she knew it was Aaron because of the oddness of him using the phone without asking.
It was just a weird thing. That's why she was saying, I remember him coming in.
This was all a bit confusing because Aaron went missing on the 7th, and then you've got these two witnesses saying they saw him on the 8th.
There is a camera at Big Y, or there was at the time, but they said that it didn't work. It was just a live feed, like it wasn't recorded.
So Aaron's family members had already told police he was planning to go to CRM's house the day he disappeared. And then police find these two witnesses who put him near CRM's house at the time. According to the police report, there was someone else Aaron often met with to sell pills too. This was a man by the name of Jerry Chaffins. Police met with CRM and Jerry. The report states, quote, both are denying knowing the subject Aaron or any pill or drug selling with him, end quote. However, a little later in the report it states Detective Kraft met with CRM, quote, and he stated he didn't meet with Aaron, but had talked to him on the phone a couple times, end quote. Heather said they knew CRM had run out of pills before Aaron went missing, so her sister's husband came up with a plan. He got in touch with the middleman. This was the guy who had gone with Aaron to CRM's house the first few times he had gone there. He asked this man to take a trip up to CRM's house.
This middleman went to the suspect's house to see what he could see the morning of the 8th and to buy a pill because the day before he did not have OxyContin 80, waiting on my brother to bring them. So he went, my brother-in-law gave him the money and sent him up there to go check things out. And he came back with an OxyContin 80.
A couple of months after Aaron went missing, on March 14, 2002, a worker at Good Samaritan Hospital in Lexington, Kentucky, about a 2-hour and 20-minute drive from Flax Patch Road, called the police after noticing that a truck had been parked in the parking garage for quite a long time, backed into the same spot.
It was covered in dust, and there was still like residue from a slushy snow on the road, on the vehicle.
When the police arrived, they ran the tag and discovered that the truck belonged to a person who had been reported missing, Paul Aaron Triplett. The police had the truck towed to an impound lot.
The only thing that was finger dusted, looking for evidence of his disappearance in his truck, was a little white ceramic plate that I'm assuming was used to bust up OxyContin and snort them on. And that's the only thing that had like a little layer of a gray substance where they had finger dusted.
So they didn't do the steering wheel?
Heather said, based on the timeline of when it was impounded, along with conversations she had with officers from the Lexington Police Department, they returned the truck back to Aaron's mom very quickly.
It indicates maybe 45 minutes to an hour was spent looking for evidence in his truck before a phone call was made to my mom that we could come and pick it up.
Police did check for security footage from the parking deck.
There were no security cameras, no little ticket that you had to use and put in your windshield when you drive through so you would know how much to pay when you get out. Nothing like that.
Heather said there were several things missing from Aaron's truck.
When we got the truck released back to us, there was 2 gun holsters. There was a bag of his dirty clothes that he had from the weekend. No cell phone, no keys, no guns, no money, no pills. His CDs and stuff were still in there.
On November 10th of 2002, a witness by the name of Travis Collins sat down with 2 troopers from the Kentucky State Patrol. We have obtained an audio recording made of that interview.
Kentucky State Police Detective Dean Kraft. Today is Sunday, November the 10th, 2002. The time is 2 a.m. Present in the room is Kentucky State Police Troopers Tim Moore and Jody Sims. We have present Travis Collins. Did you know a Paul Aaron Triplett?
Yes, I went to grade school with him. He moved there 7th grade, and I known him till he was in high school until he quit.
So if you saw Paul Aaron Triplett, you would recognize him?
Yes.
Have you ever bought drugs from Paul Aaron Triplett?
Yes, I have.
Is there anyone else that you've bought drugs from? Do you know where Charlie lives?
Flags Patch.
You told me earlier that you had gone to Charlie's house one night at Fletch Patch. Can you tell me what you saw that night?
I borrowed my mommy's boyfriend's truck because I ain't got no license, and I figured I could slip over that hill. There's no law hardly on that road, and they don't patrol it, and everybody leaves that place alone. I go up Flex Patch. I go up through there, and where it gets there, it's too slick to get up there, and it's kind of slushy and muddy. And so I parked right down below before I get up there where it gets real muddy and stuff. I was exactly probably 20, 25 foot from his fence. And so I pull over there and get a white spot in case somebody else comes through, they can get back. I get out, I turn the truck off, I turn the lights off, ease the door shut, and I walk up there. I walk around the red gate, because I think the gate was shut. So I just go on up through there, and I go around to the carport. On the way there, I saw a green S10, and it was Aaron's truck. I could tell it to a T. I could draw a picture of it. I know it's good.
He also said later in the interview that CRM's old rusty truck was there along with a sports car of some sort. He thought perhaps it was a Ford Probe with an out-of-state tag on it. He thought it was perhaps an Ohio or an Indiana plate.
I go up through there, and when I get right up, I get ready to knock, I see standing at his couch, reaching from his table, and Aaron is like he's going to take a sit down there on the right end of his recliner. It's a 9mm, a black gun. I believe it was a Luger or something like that. He turns around and he swings. He hits him right on the left middle, in the back of the head.
Right behind the ear.
Right behind the ear, right above the ear, just a little bit, right here. And he takes a file and he gets on top of it and gives him a few good sops. And I get scared and run off. I did see blood coming from his head and stuff like that. And his hair the blood was kind of like it was matting together on his head, kind of like making his hair stick together. And then I run down through there and I figured, well, it's just one of his movies. Everything will be all right because he's done that to many people. Gets them up there, whoops them and everything. It's just one of his, and I figured everything would be all right. I figured they just had an argument or something. Then I run back down in there, a little shaking up because I figured if I get seen there, jump on me, want me and send me to the house.
He said he still wanted to buy a pill from someone, either Aaron or CRM. So he decided to wait at the end of Flax Patch Road.
Well, I figured I'd wait at the mouth of the holler and get me some cheap pills.
People use the term holler in Kentucky when they are talking about a narrow valley, or in this case, a small, secluded area between hills or mountains. Often a holler road is unpaved, with dense woods or steep hills on either side.
Did anyone come out of the holler?
Yes, later on, after I waited down at the mouth of the holler, Aaron Triplett's truck, and I figured it was Aaron Triplett. And it comes out, takes a dead stop at the stop sign, and it takes a left. It took off kind of fast, but did squeal the tires. So I get in that old truck, it's a stand, and I throw it in reverse. It's like, get around real quick, and get up behind him and start flickering my lights. Stand on them. I was flipping them hard. And he pulls over this spot right before you get to 15. There's a place where you can pull your vehicles and stuff up in there. I guess the gas company uses this place. And he pulls in there, and I pull up behind him. And I get out and walk up to the window, and I said, and start knocking on it. I said, "Hey, Aaron." This guy rolls the window down right there. And I said, "Where's Aaron at?" He said, "I just borrowed his truck, man." Rolls the window up, says, like, "Leave me alone." And rolls the window up, and just takes off. He had latex gloves on. He had a striped, kind of like a flannel shirt, brown boots, steel toes, blue jeans, kind of dark colored.
Did he have any type of cap or hat?
Blue cap.
Blue cap on?
Had a blue cap on.
Travis also wrote a handwritten statement for the police. He wrote, quote, "I went to school with Paul Aaron Triplett, and I know him when I see him. When I see a poster of Paul Aaron Triplett, I get cold chills, sick at my stomach, get headaches, and I see Paul Aaron in my sleep. I have problems sleeping at night because of what I had seen." He added to the description of the man he had seen inside CRM's house and driving Aaron's truck that day. Quote, "He was a white male, dark hair, goatee, 250 to 270 pounds, approximately 5 feet 9 inches tall." According to his written statement, if CRM did kill Aaron, he would not have been the first person CRM had killed. Quote, "I was asked the weekend before this night if I would be interested in helping CRM dispose of a body. CRM told me that he would whip my debt clean and he would give me 20 or 30 OC80s. He then added that he had also been attacked by CRM. Quote, "Brad Day and I were riding around one night and we met CRM on top of Big Branch Mountain. CRM assaulted me with his fist and a handgun, and CRM told me that he had killed Paul Aaron Triplett. He then wrote that CRM warned him to keep his mouth shut." Travis was not the only witness police talked to. They also spoke to a girl named Angela, who was 15 years old at the time. Quote, Angela stated she had once dated Jeremy Matston, CRM's nephew. Angela stated that she was at CRM's residence one night and that she and Jeremy had done a pill together and she was sitting on the couch with her head back and her eyes closed. Angela advised she assumed they must have thought she was passed out and she overheard a conversation between Jeremy, Brad Day, and CRM.
So I call her my ear witness. She says she overhears suspect and two other gentlemen talking about what he did to my brother and where they put my brother. Approximately how many pills he had on him and how much money was on him.
Other witnesses also spoke to the police, and many of them said Aaron was buried somewhere on CRM's property or on his family's property near his property.
There's all kinds of tips in the case file of people saying so-and-so was at a party and they heard this person say he's in a hand-dug well up there past the guy's house. This person heard that he was under some kind of concrete floor close to the guy's house.
Heather said CRM's house burned down shortly after Aaron vanished.
I can remember hearing people saying that it was probably for insurance money. It was probably to get rid of DNA. I don't know if there's truth to any of it, but that's what I remember hearing.
Heather said she always thought CRM killed her brother. However, back in 2002, she had no idea there were all these witnesses who were talking to the police and telling them they also thought CRM killed him.
We were just always told there's not enough evidence to question him, to arrest him, to search him.
2 decades later, Heather tried to get the information police had on Aaron's case through an open records request. However, since she was living in Texas at the time, her request was denied. Kentucky has a law that you have to be a resident of the Commonwealth or a journalist in order to get an open record request accepted, which is a ridiculous law, and even more ridiculous when it's used to turn down a request from a family member of the victim in a case. Heather was eventually able to get the information by having one of her family members who still lived in Kentucky put in an open records request.
This information is all we really needed to hear in 2002, but we never did hear it. I'm assuming they're working on a case and they can't release all information. But for 22 years to go by and not reach out and let us know, hey, you know what, you guys were right. He did go there that day. You're right, there is foul play involved.
The report stated that the police did do one search shortly after Aaron went missing at CRM's property after getting permission from him to search a couple of hand-dug wells. Heather said this was not a full search of his entire property.
They had interviewed the suspect and gotten permission to check a couple hand-dug wells, and they went to check the hand-dug wells and didn't see anything. But other than that, we were never informed of any searches that were done.
CRM had dealt with the law a few times before all this happened. According to the Mountain Eagle, he and his sister were arrested for allegedly robbing the Garrett branch of the Bank of Josephine in July of 1996. Two robbers, wearing dark helmets with visors, fled on all-terrain vehicles and escaped into the mountains after robbing the bank, making off with $14,266. According to Education Week, his sister was arrested at Knott County High School, where she had been a special education teacher for 12 years. FBI agents showed up at the school and handcuffed her as students watched in shock. According to the Messenger, they each spent several months in jail before eventually being acquitted of the bank robbery charges. Then, according to the Mountain Eagle, on December 19th of 2000, CRM was arrested for, quote, using another man's identity to obtain prescription drugs, end quote. Somehow, CRM was allegedly able to find the social security number and birth date of another man with the same name as him. He then gave the other man's information to workers at a clinic to get prescription drugs. Police said the two men were not related. He was charged initially with 2 felonies in that case, but that was increased later to 7 counts of theft by identity, 6 counts of fraudulently obtaining a prescription for a Schedule II controlled substance, and 7 counts of being a first-degree persistent felony offender. In addition to all that, he was also charged with 1 count of being in possession of a controlled substance, which was, you guessed it, OxyContin. We are not sure what happened in that case. CRM died at the age of 46 on Sunday, November 20th, 2005. In 2008, 6 years after Aaron went missing and 3 years after CRM died, police did another search at his property. They had received 2 anonymous tips.
One of them being that he was under a concrete patio that sat beside of where the suspect's house used to sit before it had burned. And then the other tip was it was under concrete foundation of the porch, which was kind of, here was like the patio, and then the porch foundation was kind of here.
Police brought cadaver dogs with them, but would the dogs still be able to hit on a scent after all those years?
Apparently, human blood, that scent can stick around for a long time. They actually think that there's a possibility of a faint scent 22 years later.
According to the report, 3 cadaver dogs were used in the search.
All 3 cadaver dogs alerted onto one area. 2 of the officers that were there during the search, it wasn't enough to continue the search, so everybody left at that time. Talked to the dog handlers, and based on what the dog handlers say, I was thinking they didn't even dig on the area where all 3 dogs alert. So that led me trying to find the company that had the dogs.
She said she called the detective in charge of the case at the time, and he told her the name Kentucky Search Dog Association was handwritten in as the name of the company. There was no address or phone number in the report for the company. The detective was not even sure if the company was still in business. She did find a company called Kentucky Search Dog Association that was out of Lexington.
I called that company, and she thoroughly searched their records to see if they were the ones that did that search. And she couldn't find any information that it was their company that did it.
But she did tell her something interesting.
She informed me that a dog handler would never tell you it's not enough evidence to search. That's always on the officers. It's their decision, always their decision whether to dig or not.
Heather said there were no other searches after that. She said she contacted some of CRM's family members and asked if she could conduct her own search of the property.
One of them did respond to my message and said that she politely declines permission because they had done searches back in 2002 or 2008, and it caused a lot of stress and aggravation for their family at that time.
At some point, she heard another horrifying story.
Supposedly, he is in pieces in a bag or different bags, and then like concrete was poured into that bag or different bags. And so there could be multiple bags in a hand dug well, or just one bag with body parts in it encased in concrete.
Police reports state that they also looked closely at another potential suspect who we mentioned earlier. This was a man by the name of Jerry Chaffins. Quote, on Friday, December 3rd of 2004, at approximately 10:50 p.m., Kentucky State Police Detective Dwayne Price and I, the report was written by Detective Dean Kraft, contacted Valmy Sparkman at her brother's residence. Miss Sparkman stated she was friends with Jerry Chaffin's sons, and the youngest one was at her mother's residence one night crying and wanted to call his dad. Miss Sparkman stated she overheard him tell his dad that he knew not to say anything because he was looking at 40 years in prison. Miss Sparkman stated that she talked to the youngest boy and he told her that his brothers killed Paul Aaron Triplett by hitting him on the head with a hammer. They called their dad and he came to Wayland and they loaded him in Jerry's truck. Jerry and the boys took Paul Aaron's body to Jerry's house where he was cut up with a circular saw. The body was fed to the hogs, but they would not eat his fingernails and bones. They buried the fingernails and bones around Jerry's house. Miss Sparkman stated every time she was around Jerry's youngest son, that was all he wanted to talk about. Miss Sparkman stated she was willing to wear a wire and talk with Jerry Chaffin's sons to see if they were willing to talk to her about Paul Aaron Triplett. I advised Miss Sparkman that I would check on setting something up with her wearing a wire. End quote.
In the report, it was documented that at this time, nobody from that office had called him back to set anything up. So nothing, was followed up on that.
It would be crazy if police never followed up with Miss Sparkman and got her to wear a wire around Jerry's sons. Still, Heather does not believe Jerry and his kids had anything to do with Aaron's disappearance.
It's a very believable story. I believe something happened to somebody, but it just maybe not my brother.
Sometime around May of 2024, Heather said her family hired a private investigator to look into Aaron's disappearance.
The private investigator has been in contact with the detective that has my brother's case now, and both of them have worked independently a little bit on some things, and then they've worked together on some things, I believe.
Heather said she thinks Aaron's body is still out here somewhere on CRM's former property or further out in the woods, but it's hard to know exactly where. Perhaps his body is still in one of the hand-dug wells on the property. She said there are at least 4 of them out here, and only 2 of them have ever been searched.
He may be in those, or was at one point, and then got moved under a concrete floor. And then there's tips or things in his case file that he was put not in front of a tree in the ground, but under a pine tree that would be less than a mile past the suspect's house where it used to sit. So there's lots of pine trees around, and apparently there's maybe 4 or 5 hand dug wells.
So potentially there could be anywhere out here.
Yes, there's hand dug wells here somewhere. There's pine trees. I'm not sure of other concrete flooring, but there's lots of information about that.
Heather desperately wants to have a proper burial for her brother.
I believe the guilty person or people are gone. I just want to find my brother's remains. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble. If someone was to have knowledge of where he was put exactly, there or some other place, I would love to grant them immunity. Both the private investigator and the detective knows that I would gladly do that if someone could give us that information.
Aaron was 6 feet 2 inches tall and weighed 150 pounds with green eyes, brown hair, and fair skin at the time he disappeared. He had a tattoo of a bird on his right shoulder blade, a dragon on the inside of his right leg, and a triangular birthmark on his lower back. He also had a scar from having his appendix removed. New owners bought the land past where CRM used to live, and Heather said they have agreed to let the family search any hand-dug wells they can find on the property. Heather is unsure as to when those searches might take place.
We've now reached the portion of the video where we're going to share our own thoughts and opinions on this case, starting with Heather.
I believe that this is another case of a drug deal gone wrong. Aaron was set up. The guy said, "Hey, I want you to bring 200 OxyContin instead of 100. I want you to meet me at this location," which you saw. It was back in the woods up in the mountain, very secluded area, "and make it your last stop before you go back to Michigan."
Yeah, the family seems to be correct on this one. Right from the very beginning, they had warned Aaron, hey, don't go up there alone. I mean, it's hard to even show it on camera how in the middle of nowhere this location is. We've been to a lot of locations kind of in the middle of nowhere, but none quite like this. It's on a windy, long road, miles up into the mountain. His family owned the property around his property, so he was all alone out there, this dealer, and there was nowhere for Aaron to go once he got stuck out there in potentially what was probably a bad drug deal where the guy was trying to rob him. Now, where his body is, we just don't know. There's definitely a good chance it's on one of those properties out there at the end of the road. It looks like the family may get a chance to do some searching out there at some point. Hopefully that will come through for them. Big thanks to Heather's aunt for welcoming us into her home, and a big thanks to Heather for driving around with us, showing us the locations. It's got to be so hard for these family members after more than 2 decades to not have answers yet as to what happened to Aaron. If you have any information, we're going to give you contact information after the video and down below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.